This is where we try and inform and help newbies to investing on stock markets, to possible investment opportunities. Equity Guru is all about trying to make markets accessible to everyone, not just really wealthy people who understand the intra-workings of stock markets across the globe. So here we go with a company that you should perhaps put your eye on. We are going to introduce you to Neupath Health. Their stock symbol is NPTH, and we're thrilled to have Grant Connelly, the CEO, and Stephen Lemieux, the CFO, with us today. Guys, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having us, Jody. Looking forward to sharing the story with you.
Full disclosure, someone at Equity Guru said, I got to tell you that Neupath is one of my favorite companies. And this individual does not hand that sort of praise out. So do tell, what is Neupath all about?
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. We're solving a really big problem. I think that's really the starting point, is that chronic pain doesn't really get the attention that other conditions receive, and it really has a big impact. So there's a study called the Global Burden of Disease, and it measures exactly that, the impact that different conditions are having on people's lives, and ranks them. And it ranks them based on either time lost to disability or time lost to death. Chronic pain back in 1990 was 12th on that list in terms of leading causes of disability. Adjusted life years is the term they use to measure. By 2005, it was 8th on that list. And by 2015, it was 4th on that list. So just to put things in perspective, you know, it's being compared to things like cancer and HIV and other conditions that receive a lot more attention, and chronic pain is actually ranked 4th in terms of the impact it's having on people's lives. So we're really doing a poor job in terms of helping chronic pain patients. We need to be doing a better job, and that's really what Neupath was formed to do, is to solve that big problem. And so we're doing that by providing in-clinic treatments to patients. I always like to say that we're part of the opioid solution story. A lot of the patients, when they start working with us, they have existing opioid prescriptions. Our doctors will work with them to try to responsibly taper them off of opioids and find other treatment modalities that might be less harmful for them. And so we have the largest clinic network in Canada. I always say that with a bit of a smile because all of our clinics are located in Ontario, but we are actually building out from Ontario. It's very important for us to have a national network. We see a lot of opportunity there just in terms of working with employers to help solve some of the challenges that employers face, because employers overwhelmingly shoulder the burden of chronic pain outside of patients. And I say that because the majority of costs associated with chronic pain is as a result of lost productivity. So absenteeism, short-term disability, and long-term disability stays in Canada, it's estimated to cost in excess of $37 billion per year.
Wow, per year?
Yeah, per year, yeah. So there's a real opportunity for us to not only help patients, but help employers. And we see a lot of parallels between what we're doing and what's already been happening in mental health. Both conditions carry a stigma. I would say that a lot more work has gone into eliminating that stigma on the mental health side. Chronic pain still needs a little bit more work, but they both cost the Canadian economy between $50 and $60 billion per year. And the cost is almost, majority borne by employers in the form of lost productivity. And so what we've seen is that employers have embraced mental health initiatives for their employees. And the nice thing is they're helping employees, but these businesses are also seeing positive ROI. So each dollar they're investing in mental health services, they're generating between $1.75 and $2.30 per year. So, we view the work in mental health as almost plowing the field for us. They're conditioning employees to understand that there is positive ROI available from investing in your employees' health. And we want to do the same thing from a chronic pain perspective.
Now, when you talk about what Neupath offers for somebody who is arriving with chronic pain, and that there are alternatives being offered to move people away from opioids, clearly we've seen an overprescribed community for those who have suffered with chronic pain, or people are left to self-medicate in other ways. What happens at Neupath that sort of sets you apart?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the thing that people don't necessarily understand about chronic pain, and it's because it's a very, very poorly understood condition, is that we tend to think of chronic pain in terms of an injury or illness. It's actually much more complex than that. It's really driven by a combination of biological, psychological, and social factors. And so in order to achieve good outcomes, you can't just treat the pain or the pain sensation. You have to treat those contributing factors. And what sets Neupath apart, what makes us different, is that we're not just treating the pain or the pain sensation. That's part of what we offer, but we're also trying to treat the contributing factors in the form of psychological and social issues. So we offer what we call a self-management program. A big part of helping patients is offering them education and tools that they can use to better self-manage their chronic pain. By definition, it's a chronic condition. We can't cure it. All we can do is return function to those patients and make their lives better and provide them with tools that help them do that themselves.
Okay, so Stephen, let's bring you in here on some dollars and cents of this. With all of what Grant just laid out, which sounds like it's a no-brainer. It's a win. It's helping people, and it's giving that ROI. There's clearly growth potential, revenue potential here for Neupath Health. So why is your company not getting the investor love that some would think? Well, that's an easy yes.
I think it's a couple factors. One is we just went public this year in July, and when most companies go public, they do a public offering. So they're out marketing their stock and they do that initial offering. We didn't do that. We went through a mechanism called a reverse takeover. So we merged with a company that was already public. So it took a little bit of the less attention off. And we had an existing investor base that was already with us. So they already knew the story they like where the story is going. So there's not an onus on them to want to sell the stock. They really want to see it go public and grow. So the part on Grant was really not only showing that we can deliver good results each quarter and execute on what we want to do, but it's just doing activities like this to educate the market, tell our story, who we are, to bring some eyes, and then just increasing the liquidity of the stock. Like we did a bought deal financing last month. We originally went out to raise $8 million. We ended up closing, and we took $12 million, but we had about $30 million of subscriptions. So we know there's starting to become more investor interest, and it's just kind of continuing and just executing on all the things that we set out to do.
So this really is one of those scenarios, or could be one of those scenarios for the novice investor, as I'm pointing to myself, to say that this is an equation poised to really see some significant upside in the months and years ahead, certainly given the awareness piece, Grant, that you were referencing with regard to people just sort of pivoting from removing the stigma from mental health issues and pivoting over to helping people with chronic pain because it is so prevalent.
No, go ahead. So, I was gonna say exactly. I think we're really just starting here. Like Grant said, we're in Ontario. We've got a pretty good coverage on the Ontario market, but it's really about expanding. Like we're looking at acquisition targets out in Western Canada to really try to build that national network so we can take advantage of like some opportunities with large employers to provide better care and services for their patients, as well as continuing just to grow organically. Like our business, we've done a lot to improve it over the past few years. So we've gone from a 29% capacity utilization rate, which when we first started, to now we're just over 55%. And that's just so we can almost double our revenue just by improving our internal processes and bringing more doctors and offering more options to our patients internally. And then with
No, I like that. That's a really good point. So you have, how many clinics currently in Ontario, and you're looking to expand? What are the goals in terms of that expansion? When you say Western, do you mean, peppering certain provinces, or will there be a more methodical, okay, we're in Ontario, now we're going to go to BC?
Exactly. Like, so in Ontario, we have 12 clinics that range from Windsor to Ottawa. So we pretty much cover all of southwestern, like all of southern Ontario and eastern Ontario. So the goal really is, when we look at working with large employers to offer a better service to deal with some of the numbers that Grant mentioned earlier, we really look at building out, like, we like the cluster clinic model so we can load balance. So we're really looking at building out, like, in the Vancouver region, like Edmonton, Calgary, like Winnipeg, Montreal, in some of the major centers. So we've got like that physical presence where patients can go in. We're also working with a company called Pivot Technology on like a remote pain management tool. So,
Oh.
so even if they're not in the clinic, we're kind of like, the goal is really to give them a good quality of life. So there's that piece where they're in the clinic and they can get treatment, but through the remote pain management tool, they can also, like, there's like counseling exercises, they can track pain, and then there's information we'll relay back to doctors. So they kind of have tools no matter where they are to help manage if they have a flare in pain or if they're just having a bad day. They're never, it's not like, oh, I have to go back and see my doctor. There's always a tool for constant care.
It sounds fantastic. So selfishly, as soon as you said Vancouver, I was like, excellent.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the discussions about chronic pain are real, and more so, I think, maybe for women than men, because men are slower to talk about what ails them. But having the conversation and really putting the Neupath Health name out there, and having a place to go that isn't, maybe making somebody feel like, oh, my chronic pain, I should just suck it up and live with it instead of trying to burden my doctor with it. But if there's actually a clinic set up to help with specifically this, perhaps our own personal, I guess stigma still is the word to say, maybe I don't need the help. And yet you do. Clearly, with the opioid crisis that we are in, with how people have managed pain by using those, as opposed to some of the alternatives that you definitely provide here at Neupath Health. So let's quickly, I could talk to you guys for an hour, clearly, but let's talk a little bit about what those alternatives look like. Because there's going to be somebody watching this right now going, I don't know how to manage my chronic pain without taking a painkiller. So, meditation is great, but I'm going to need more than that. So what is the more than that? That is that slow and controlled exit from the opioid world for somebody who is living with chronic pain?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, if you speak with our doctors will say, as much as I said, we don't just provide that relief from the pain or the pain sensation. That's important. Providing those patients with that, what some of our doctors will call it a pain holiday. Where patients can feel like they can go out, they can move again. It might help them go back to work, it might help them spend time with their children, it might help them go out for a walk and exercise. It's very cruel to say to somebody who's experiencing a lot of pain, just go out and do exercise, go to physiotherapy, whatever it is, when their body is telling them, whatever you're doing, stop, because you're creating damage. And that's one of the big misconceptions. Our pain serves a biological purpose when it's an acute pain situation. It's really our body's way of telling, our brain's way of telling us, stop what you're doing, you're creating some structural damage. In chronic pain, it serves no biological function, but because we're so conditioned to listen to our brains and say, stop doing that, that's what happens with chronic pain patients. And it's honestly the worst thing that they could possibly do is live that sedentary life and not do anything. But again, it's very cruel to them to say, I know you're experiencing a lot of pain, but just go out and move, just go out and exercise, stretch, do the things that you used to enjoy doing. And so
Right.
providing some, that pain holiday where, it's not, the pain isn't taking over their life, and they feel like they have some relief, and they can start living their life again and return some function, is an important step. And then they can start doing things like exercises and stretching. I think a really good doctor, in speaking with a patient and talking about moving, I read this really interesting approach where, they advocated for doctors to say to patients, can you walk for 10 minutes without feeling any pain? And if the answer is no, then work your way down. Can you walk for 5 minutes without feeling any pain? And hit that number and start from there and build your way up. And our doctors really do that. Our doctors help on a nutritional front, an exercise front, that counseling piece, as well as the chronic pain self-management program. And you mentioned meditation. Meditation is actually does work. It actually changes the structure of our brains, and it's very important. So just providing patients with that education so they understand you're not doing any structural damage when you're moving. It's okay to move. You have permission to move.
Right.
Is a big piece of it, and helping them understand what's actually happening in their bodies, and things they should be doing, things they shouldn't be doing, helping them understand what contributes to their chronic pain, because again, it's biological, psychological, and social.
And this has been educational just in that one piece of the difference between chronic pain and other pain and injury situations, like the way your brain works around it. I certainly didn't know that. So you're already teaching me a lot about this. And so now I have the question that takes us away from the company in the sense of why Neupath Health, and more about what you two gentlemen are, what your investment advice, I guess, would be, or your investment perspective is. Like, do you remember the first investment you made and what was pivotal in you saying, I'm going to take this hard-earned money of mine and put it into something?
I think that for me it was based on a personal interest. I think that there were companies that seemed very boring to me, like telecoms or utilities, and I had no interest in investing in those just because I didn't feel that connection with the business. And so I think my first investment was with a technology company back in 1998, 1999, when technology, the internet was brand new.
Yeah.
I think that was my first investment because I was interested in it. I had that interest level. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's find a story that you're interested in, that you want to learn more about, because you do have to learn more about it. You have to do your diligence and understand the company, understand their position in the industry, and so if you find something you love or find something or connect with, then that work doesn't seem like work.
Yeah, it's not so much about green numbers and red numbers and bar graphs and trends. It's more about what interests you and what you want to be a part of. Stephen, what is your sort of mantra when it comes to your first investments, or how you approached markets in the early days?
Yeah, I think it's similar to Graham. Like when I first started out, it was industries I was either familiar with or I had a passion for, where like I didn't mind, like it didn't seem like work to go learn about them or do some reading. So it just something you could do in your pastime. And as I've evolved, I'm kind of like, it's two pieces. I look at stuff that, like, what are things that we typically use in our lives all the time, but then also what are things that are really interesting that could change the way businesses work or stuff like that. And one of it's people. It's really learn the people, like meet the people. Like I've been the CFO of companies, and Grant has as well. Like we talk to pretty much anyone that wants to learn about the business, and take those opportunities, go talk to the executives, understand who they are, because part of the investing is investing in the people that run these companies and making sure they're the people you think can deliver on what they're promising. So
that is a constant here on First Glance with Jody Vance. When I ask that piece of advice, consistently successful people such as yourselves have said, you've got to get to know the people behind the stock symbol. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about Neupath Health?
So you can reach us by email. Like our emails are in our investor deck, which is on our website. Our website has links. So there's like an info line and an investor line that comes directly to myself.
Great.
And then, through, if they want to reach out to you, you can pass our contact info on as well.
We can do that for sure. Grant, Stephen, thank you so much for doing this. And I hope that we get to circle back in the post-COVID days and sit in our studios in Vancouver when you're announcing the opening of your Vancouver clinics. So thanks for this.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.